Senator Inhofe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got to say one thing in response to they always end up talking here about the great Paris Agreement that came in place. If there's ever a joke, that's it. I mean, they've been trying for 21 years to get 192 countries, 196 countries to agree on something that they all agree on. And when I talk to those individuals, and I've been at some of these meetings, they're there lining up to see who can get the most money out of this system. Now, this great Paris Agreement that took place, what did we commit to in our country? President Obama said we will reduce CO2 emissions by 27% by 2025. Now, I was chairman of the committee at that time, we called his own EPA and said, we want you to come in and testify and tell us how you're going to cut these emissions. They refused to do it. I've never seen a time when someone in the jurisdiction of a committee refused to testify, and the reason was that they couldn't do it. What did other people agree to? India said, yeah, we'll agree that if so long as we get somewhere between $1 and $2.5 trillion, we will start doing something about emissions. China right now, every 10 days, comes out with a new coal-fired energy generating plant. And they said, we'll continue to do that until 2025. Then we'll consider doing something of a reduction. Not when 2025 comes, no one's going to remember. But I just like to remind people that they've tried for 21 years, and this is the best they can come up with. Now, Mr. Eisenberg, I want to mention something. Some good things are happening right now. I mean, look at the economy. There was an article in this morning's the Wall Street Journal. I want to make, Mr. Chairman, a matter of the record here. The U.S., I'll just quote one or two sentences here. U.S. manufacturers have added 156,000 workers since Donald Trump was elected president in November of 2016, according to the government data. That is a clear turnaround from the loss of 16,000 jobs during the final year of Barack Obama's administration. I ask consent this be made a part of the record.
Without objection.
And also the other thing, I had personal experience in this because I was a builder and developer for 25 years. And I ended up, here I was doing things, making the sacrifices, building and expanding the tax base, making money, losing money and all that. But the chief opponent I had, or opposition I had all that time, was the federal government. And, so I've lived, so I'm going to make this a part of the record too. One of the great things this president has done is all the CRAs, Congressional Review Acts, and I'm proud that mine was the first one to have a signing ceremony, and that was the one where Obama had come out with a rule that said, if you're competing here, the oil and gas domestically in the United States with China or other countries, you have to give them all the information out of your playbook, putting us at a competitive disadvantage. So I introduced a CRA, it passed overwhelmingly, and the president signed it. And I want to make this a part of the record also because I have some 70 rules and regulations that have caused our energy to start, our economy to start turning around. So I just want to observe, Mr. Eisenberg, that all the things that are happening right now, in the second and third quarter of this administration, of this year, we've increased the economy by 3%. And the first quarter, of course, that was the previous administration, is 1.6%. And that's a huge thing. Right now, we're talking about what can we do to increase the revenues that come into the United States. And one of the best ways is to increase our GDP, and that's exactly what we're doing. So I would say, Mr. Eisenberg, there's not time for a question from you, but I would only say that good news, good things are happening right now, and I think your testimony has made that real clear. I want to say one thing, however, with Mr. Coddington, because Harold Hamm is, do you know who Harold Hamm is?
Yes, I do.
All right. Harold Hamm, for those who don't know, is the executive director of the International Energy Agency, and he said yesterday, quote, the United States will become the undisputed global oil and gas leader for decades to come. The growth in production is unprecedented, exceeding all historic records. And that's Harold Hamm, by the way, is from Oklahoma. He has the continental resources, and he's even right now exporting oil to China, of all things. So good things are happening, and I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.